Welcome back, Micro Galaxians. Today we are going to unbox and review Poe Dameron's T-70 X-Wing. This is a part of Series 3 of Micro Galaxy Squadron. Right now, in the States, it can only be found on Amazon. I will have all the links in the description below. It is one of those ships that has been popping in and out of stock, so right now, as I'm filming this, it is currently in stock. Amazon had these on pre-order for like the longest time, but they finally shipped them out. I received it today. Very excited about this. The price point, like the rest, is $16.99. Now, before the States received these, Chile actually got them first, so a lot of fans out there were able to get their hands on it before we did. Here's a good look at the back of the packaging. Our traditional, beautiful box art. We have our collectible blueprint card. It shows all the features that this X-Wing can do, which is pretty much what we're going to see with Luke Skywalker's X-Wing. Also, Antok Merrick's, if you are lucky enough to have one of those. Here are some more ships released in this wave. We have Anakin's Jedi Starfighter. We have the V-Wing, which I already reviewed on the channel. Now, when you click on this link to buy this X-Wing, it will give you a tab for both of these vehicles right there. Again, they've been popping in and out of stock, so save the links for when they actually do pop in stock. And then our chase vehicles, we have General Grievous's Starfighter, which is 1 out of 15,000, and we have Poe Dameron's X-Wing from The Force Awakens, the one that gets blown up within like the first 10 minutes of the film. That one is 1 out of 5,000. As always, here's the barcode to help you track this down. I'm also going to put in the Target DPCI. It shows on the Target app, but it's not in stock at this moment. The figures included in this set is obviously Poe Dameron and BB-8. They look awesome. This is the first issue we have of BB-8, and we know it's not going to be the last. Okay, so this is number 2 out of 3 X-Wings that we know Poe Dameron has piloted. The first one in The Force Awakens, a Resistance Blue T-70, which gets destroyed, and is also the chase in this Series 3, 1 out of 5,000. And, you know, I would prefer the chases to be set up that way, you know, a ship that's going to be more desirable to be at the 1 out of 15,000, and I'm just speculating that most people would want General Grievous's Starfighter over Poe's Resistance X-Wing. So if it's 1 out of 15,000 for a ship that a lot of people are going to, you know, want, then I would prefer it to be that way, whereas something that maybe a lot of people can live without to be at the 1 through 5,000 range. After his Resistance X-Wing was destroyed, he ended up piloting this iconic T-70, which is also known as the Black One. Now, it was destroyed in, I think it was The Last Jedi. Kylo Ren ended up destroying it, which was sad because I really liked this X-Wing. It was unlike anything we ever saw before. And honestly, you know, his flight scenes and dogfights were some of the best scenes in the entire sequel, so it was sad to see that one go. But of course, he comes back with a third X-Wing in The Rise of Skywalker. That one can be seen as like a gray silver with some orange on it. And from what I understand, it's supposed to commemorate or honor BB-8, so it kind of went with his color scheme. I would eventually like to see Micro Galaxy Squadron make that color scheme of ship, you know, since they already released his other 2 models, so it just makes sense. And X-Wings are, you know, one of my favorite ships out of the entire Star Wars franchise. You know, they're right up there with Pod Racers and the Ebon Hawk. And, you know, you really just can't get enough X-Wings, and they just display really well. Let's start with our figures. Poe and his flight suit look great. You know, again, highly detailed, highly sculpted, lots of paint application. There's no real bleed on it or anything like that. BB-8 looks great as well. Cool little sculpting. I mean, there's not a whole lot to it. You know, just some orange paint applications throughout. Their backsides have the same detail and paint applications as the front. Now, if you look at the bottom of BB-8, there's a little notch that's been cut out. That's to help keep him more in place in the X-Wing. So he has the same pin system like the rest of the droids, it just seems like that little notch is a cutout to keep him more secure. We'll just put them in for the duration of the video. The cockpit's on a hinge joint like the rest of the ships. You can see there's some sculpting for the flight mechanisms and mechanics and all that. You can see there's a chair in there and some other comm links and stuff like that. For BB-8, it's kind of hard to see, so here's a light on the inside. So you can see the peg that he sits on, and then there's like a bar across the bottom, and that's what that little notch is for. I would imagine that's just to help keep him more secure. And then he pops in just like so, no problem. I try to match the front of his like little black eye to the front of the ship, and it seems like he kind of just like sits right on in there. And well, there you have it. He seems pretty secure, so we'll do like a barrel roll to make sure he doesn't fly out, and yeah, awesome. Alright, let's give this a good close-up. They did a fantastic job on that sculpting throughout. You can see they applied some weathering, looks really good. Man, they gave these engines a lot of detail. This ship is just beautifully crafted. Very happy to have this. Again, I'm a sucker for the X-Wings, so happy to have another one to the collection. Here's a good look at that engine bay and where BB-8 sits. Awesome sculpting on there. Looks fantastic. On the thrusters, you can see that there's some like afterburn effect on there, and then they also gave like a lighted appearance, which looks identical to what we see in the film. So from like our original trilogy, it has like more of a reddish glow, and this one has like a little hue of purple or pink in there. Looks awesome. Sweet details to the back of the engine. You can see those little components and stuff. Looks awesome. You know what I would have liked to have seen, is that overdrive thruster from The Last Jedi when he's taking out that dreadnought. That would have been a cool piece to have, a nice little accessory. Even if it was like a little clip-on you could take on and off. I would have really liked to have seen that with this. The nose of the X-Wing is a little bit longer, and this tip extends a little bit further down the nose. The underside continues with some great details. I love these little grooves on this engine right there. I think that's just an awesome touch. You can see there's a little bit of weathering, the paint applications throughout. There are 3 screws to keep this ship together. Here is the ejector button for BB-8. The landing gear folds flush into the body of the ship, so when you're doing like a flying scene, you don't see any of it sticking out. Awesome detail that they added within these ships. But when you're ready to activate the landing gear, there's a little lip on each strut. Pull them on out and they will click into place. So the main function of these X-Wings is, like the rest of them, opening and closing of the wings. So there are some differences between our original trilogy and our Resistance X-Wings, but honestly, they stay pretty true to the original concept. The major differences is going to come from the wings and the engines. So when you open them up, and they click into place by the way, which is really nice, the blades of the wings aren't as wide as our original trilogy, so you can see a big difference between the two. The Resistance is just a lot sleeker. It seems like it's a little bit more aerodynamic. Obviously they make advances in X-Wings and they make it, faster, lighter, and all that kind of stuff. And then just the overall width of the Resistance engine is just so much beefier. So that's cool. They didn't stray too far away from the original design, and they made it sleeker and up to date for a later generation of Star Wars. Let's compare this to our original trilogy X-Wing. So this is the only other one that I have, aside from the Chase that I found, the 1 out of 5,000, and the only difference between this one and this X-Wing there is just like paint applications and then just like Jedi Luke Skywalker. Now, I have some dimensions here. So this is considered the T-65B. So 65, it is an earlier year of the X-Wing, and this is obviously considered the T-70. So height-wise, the T-70 rings in at 6 feet, which it is smaller than the 65, and the 65 rings in at 8 feet, so that looks good there. Now, lengthwise, the 65 is supposed to be at 43 feet, whereas the 70 is supposed to be at 41 feet. And you can see that the 70 is far longer than the 65, so there is some discrepancies there, and that makes sense because, the later the model gets, the more they can figure out aerodynamics, maneuverability, and just overall better functionality of the X-Wing. The last area is going to be width. So the 65 is supposed to be at 38 feet, whereas the 70 is supposed to be at 37 feet. So again, slightly smaller is how it's supposed to be. And they ring up pretty evenly. I would say that the 65 is maybe just a tad bit bigger than the 70, which, ideally these measurements should be reversed. So the 65 should be about the size of this X-Wing here, and the 70 should be about the size of this one here, excluding the height-wise, because the height is pretty much on par with how it's supposed to be. At the end of the day, this isn't the biggest deal to me. I mean, we know that this line as a whole isn't supposed to be in scale with each other, but, to have 2 separate X-Wings, I would have liked to have seen, this one be a little bit smaller than this one. Basically, the roles reversed, if they would have started with this one being this size and then went with this guy and made it, this size. That would have been ideal, but that isn't a big deal breaker for me or really anything like that. So what matters to me the most isn't whether a ship is in scale or not, it's how much attention they actually paid to like the sculpting and the paint applications and the details and just the overall functionality of the ship. Because we've seen so many, like other brands make Star Wars ships and, they're just for lack of a better word, kind of mediocre. So what really draws me into this line is just the amount of detail, the functionality, the paint applications, the figures, just the overall playability of the ship. So that's where it counts the most for me. Like, these have the attention of a model kit. And, you know, I appreciate everybody out there who enjoys building kits and stuff like that. That's not really for me. But it has that level of detail, but in a toy, like a figure. And that's what I really appreciate the most about this brand and this line. Okay, everyone, that's going to wrap up this review and unboxing of the new Series 3 Micro Galaxy Squadron Poe Dameron's T-70 X-Wing. So I know there's a lot of emotions behind the sequels, but putting all of that aside, I think some of the strongest points from those films is going to come from the flight scenes and all the dogfights. Poe is a fantastic pilot. I mean, that whole dreadnought scene, you know, when he flies past their command center and like the whole like area like rattles and shakes, and then he flips the X-Wing around real quick and takes out those TIE fighters. I mean, I thought that was really well done, which is another reason why I really enjoy this ship. I mean, the color scheme is awesome. It's unlike anything we've really seen before. It's too bad it was short-lived within the franchise, but, you know, it kind of is what it is. I'm really happy to have this ship. I mean, for me, the more X-Wings, the better. The sculpting is fantastic. Again, it's like model quality sculpting, so they really knocked that out of the park. The paint applications look great. The figures are awesome, like always. And the functionality of the ship makes it the icing on the cake. The only thing I would add to this is I wish they had that overdrive thruster on the back. Even if it was just like a little clip-on you can take on and off, I mean, I think that would be just an amazing piece to add to this ship. Overall, I think this is a sweet piece to add to your collection. The price point on Amazon is $16.99. I will put all the links down below. If it says out of stock, just save the link and keep checking back and forth because they have been popping in and out. But that's it, everyone. Thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to find me on Instagram, where I do toy photography, toy videos, toy hunts, toy deals, and all things toy related. I post heavily on my stories when new things drop and when things are in stock, like I did with this many times. I also have some amazing ideas how to photograph this, so be on the lookout for that as well. But if you like this video and you want to see more of it, be sure to like and subscribe. It is free and it really helps out the channel. Until then, I will see y'all in the next video.